The speech last night, and many more topics as well, is somebody certainly that I admire very much. I appreciate him holding Republicans to account. He does a great job in doing so. Of course, I'm talking about Congressman Eric Swalwell out of California, who's joining us right now on Pushing the Limits. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to join us. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for all you're doing to just keep folks up to speed and educated.
Absolutely. I try. It doesn't always work, Congressman, but I try. What was your first reaction after the speech last night? What's the first thing, Congressman, that entered your mind after Joe Biden's speech?
This is why we elected Joe Biden, and this is why we need him for 4 more years. I mean, it was a fresh reminder that this guy is up for the fight, when our country is literally on the ropes, when democracy hangs in the balance. He's up for the fight. And any bullshit about his age or whether he can do the job, I mean, that was absolutely put to bed last night. He took their heckling, he took their jabs, and he gave it right back. And he took us to, I would say, a higher place as to what this is all about: financial freedom, freedom of body, freedom to breathe clean air, freedom to go home after class and not be subjected to gun violence, freedom to vote and have it counted. I mean, he laid out all the freedoms and called upon us, to defend them.
I agree, Congressman. I thought it was a really important part of the speech last night when he talked about the border, right? And he talked about this bipartisan bill, guys like James Lankford, right, who helped put together, MAGA supporter, by the way. And, you have Lankford nodding his head in agreement with Joe Biden.
And it's true.
Right. It's true. He's nodding his head. That's the moment I'm talking about. What a poignant moment for you guys and the Democrats and Joe Biden, and how embarrassing for Republicans that were sitting behind him while Lankford is shaking his head in agreement, right?
Yeah. Brian, these guys, they don't want the solution. They want the issue. And the reason they want the issue is because Donald Trump tells them the only way he can win is if he scares Americans and lies about, the border. And so they've walked away from solving, the problem. Because this is about Donald Trump. He doesn't care about anyone's security. He doesn't care about any immigrants' livelihood. He just cares about himself and the 91 felony charges he's facing. And if he doesn't have the border as an issue, he doesn't know what he's going to run on. And so he tells them, walk away from that, second most conservative, senator deal in James Lankford, because it's all about Donald Trump, and it will always be all about Donald Trump.
I hate to have to bring up Marjorie Taylor Greene because it's probably not worth talking about. But what do you think Republicans would say, Congressman, if an Ocasio-Cortez, when Trump was president, walked into the chambers and wore a Joe Biden hat and was decked out the way that Marjorie Taylor Greene was decked out? Republicans would be going after her, and it'd be leading on Sean Hannity's show tonight. Yet Marjorie Taylor Greene could just walk in there with that type of lack of decorum. What do you make of that? And have you talked to any Republicans that were disgusted by it at all?
She looked like a crazy lady. I mean, she looked like an absolute nut. She looked like somebody who believes in Jewish space lasers. If she's trying to disabuse us, of the notion that she believes in that, she didn't do much, with all the buttons and the T-shirt and the hat and the way that she acted. And you know what? Honestly, the president gave it right back. And again, if your argument is that, he's Sleepy Joe or he's, Dementia Joe, well, a guy who has those issues would not have been able to counterpunch while being attacked. And so they really, their whole argument against him collapsed last night, and they just showed how unserious they are.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. If you're just joining us, Congressman Eric Swalwell. Speaking of crazy, did you get a chance to watch Katie Britt's response, the Republican response? I do find it interesting, Congressman, that they wanted her speaking in a kitchen. I know there's a lot of Republicans that I spoke to last night, females, that were offended by the fact that she was speaking in a kitchen. What did you make of that? First of all, the logistics of it. And she sounded like a lunatic, in my opinion, a crazy actress over dramatizing things. What did you make of that whole situation?
Well, Brian, I think you're being a little too hard on Katie Britt, because as I listened to her, I made a donation to the SPCA because I thought it was a Sarah McLachlan, commercial. So maybe we're being too hard. We should check in with the SPCA to see, how well they did last night, because maybe there was a winner after all that came out of this. But no, when President Biden in his State of the Union said, you can call me old, but it really matters as to whether your ideas are old or not. They didn't help their case by reinforcing one of the oldest ideas, which is that a woman only belongs in the kitchen.
Congressman, I have to ask you this. I mean, how are you able to even have any type of intellectual conversations with some of these MAGA Republicans? Like, I know that there's a lot of Republicans that I'm sure you have a lot of respect for, as do I, the Mitt Romneys of the world, the Liz Cheneys. We might not always agree with them, but they're decent human beings, right? How do you even have a conversation, if you have to, with a Lauren Boebert or a Marjorie Taylor Greene or a Jim Jordan or a Matt Gaetz? As a congressman, you kind of have to try to work with them, but how do you do it? Because I know I couldn't.
Yeah, well, I think about my constituents first, right? I mean, they sent me there to get shit done for them and what's affecting them in their lives. And so sometimes, on issues that I'm not compromising my personal values or what they care about, I do have to work with Republicans. And so I chair the Precision Medicine Caucus. I chair the Rare Earth Caucus to counter China and make sure that we can derive, materials here in the U.S. But I also, having done this for 12 years and having been a fan of the WWF as I was growing up, can recognize pro wrestling when I see it. And I call it 2/3, 1/3. About two-thirds of these folks on the MAGA side are absolutely pro wrestlers. I mean, they have a persona when they're in the quote unquote ring, when they're on camera, when they're in Congress, when they're in front of the voters. But privately, they are completely someone else. Either they want to bro out with you, they want to be your friend, and they almost to a T, the 2/3 crowd, they're embarrassed of Donald Trump and they hate, what he puts them in a position to have to do. Now there's 1/3 of them, and I would put Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Jordan in this crowd. I mean, they are true MAGA believers. And I actually, to be honest, I can respect and deal with that easier than I can with somebody who knows better, but still carries out the persona because they think that's what they need to do to get elected. And the sooner those folks, the 2/3, speak up and speak out, the better off our country's going to be.
And isn't, Ted Cruz a perfect example, I think, of what you're talking about?
He's in the 2/3.
Right. He's
exactly. This guy, Brian, he, during the Senate impeachment trial, talked a bunch of trash about me the night before the trial on Fox News, sees me in the Senate bathroom after I had just presented, leans over and fist bumps me when we're both at the sink and says, "Hey, I want you to know that you're doing a really good job out there." I was stunned. I looked at him like he had 3 heads. And to him, it was like, well, the cameras aren't on. Like, we can just be normal people. I don't have to be, the MAGA warrior. And so he's in the 2/3. He knows better, but he does it because he thinks that's what the quote unquote fans, who I call constituents, want to see.
I mean, I don't know how anybody could have any moral compass when somebody goes after your spouse, your wife, and Donald Trump basically calls her ugly and says that members of your family were part of a Kennedy assassination, and then support a guy like that. What would you say to the Republicans out there today that maybe are good people, good family people, good fathers, good husbands, good mothers, yet they support a man who was just found liable for sexual battery? How do you explain that, Congressman?
Yeah, well, I would tell them, go to monster.com. Go look at the other jobs that are out there. They may think that this is the only job that they can get. And I think Monster is still like a job search platform. Go look at other jobs. I mean, these guys, I serve with a bunch of people who think this is the only job that they can get, which is crazy because I hope that I went to a place where we'd all given up other jobs that paid more and, were less stressful so that we could do a public service. But these guys look at this as like the only job that they can get. And so if you look at it that way, then you can understand why they see themselves as so small and look at Donald Trump as so big, and they're afraid of just getting, squashed by him. So, that maybe, as I said, open up, a job listing and recognize that doing what's right may be more important than keeping your job. And you could probably get another one.
Congressman, it sounds to me like you're not going to be buying those $400 sneakers. I could be wrong on that. Those Trump sneakers. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. Before I let you go, Congressman, I do want to ask you about your questioning of Hunter Biden, which I thought was so awesome. I talked about it on this show, this sham impeachment hearing we all know. Was that something that you planned on doing prior, where you were going to ask Hunter Biden about, do you operate a hotel, and allow foreign nationals to stay there? You're just basically asking question after question, which I thought was great, clowning the Republicans and the fact that, Jared Kushner receives $2.1 billion and all that stuff. Was that something that you knew you were going to do that, or was that just the day of that you decided to that line of questioning?
No, honestly, I sat through the whole deposition, which is something that James Comer, the guy who called this deposition, cannot say because he left. But as I was listening to the questions of the Republicans, it just occurred to me like, wait. Time out. I'm not going to sit here and see you ride your high horse about, allegations of, using the family's name to enrich yourself and look completely the other way to Donald Trump. And so rather than get into the weeds and accept their narrative, I thought, well, let's take a step back and really draw the contrast. And I think we have to do that from now until November. We have to draw the contrast every time they want to, take us down some crazy rabbit hole. We need the American people to say, look, you may not like the number 81, that's the president's age, but the number 91, the number of felony counts that Donald Trump is facing, is a hell of a lot higher and will cost us a lot more if allowed, to be the next president.
Final question. Will there be an investigation, and will Jared Kushner's businesses be subpoenaed based on this $2.1 billion that it received from the Saudis? Will this actually happen?
There better be. And I thought this is where Hunter was really effective. And this is why they didn't want a public hearing at first, because they didn't know what they were going to get. And Hunter, a number of times, in a very sincere way, would look at the Republicans and say, like, are you serious? Like, you're asking me about this and you don't have any problem with what Jared Kushner did? And at one point, Jamie Raskin jumped in and kind of echoed that. And a couple of Republicans said, no, we have a problem with that too. And if you look at the transcript, you'll see Raskin say, well, great, now we have you on the record that you have a problem with that too. I mean, it's unavoidable, to have Hunter sit there with your allegations and to have no care in the world about what Jared Kushner actually did.
Whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene showing naked pictures of Hunter Biden in the House chambers, talking about drag queen reading, I have no idea what the Republican Party's platform is. I guess it's whatever Donald Trump tells them to do, right? It's ludicrous. Congressman, I really admire you. I appreciate your time. Will you ever run for president one day?
You know what? I ran for about the length of this interview in 2020. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot, but I'm quite happy where I am. And I do think, you should go where you're going to be most effective. And there's a job to do this upcoming November. So
yeah, and you're doing a great job of it. We'd love to have you on again down the road, Congressman. It's a pleasure having you on. I appreciate your time. Keep up the great work, my friend. And hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Congressman. Appreciate it. That's Congressman Eric Swalwell, ladies and gentlemen. I have a lot of respect for him. He doesn't take any crap from the far right MAGA Republicans. He fights